Oh, thank you, Monty. Now it's Richard, your turn to make the case for the opposition.
Oh, thank you. I want to say how nice it is to be here, and thank you for coming. I'm a little aghast that so many of you are apparently opposed to the point of view I'm about to present. Quel dommage. Anyway, I do want to tell you something that you can't disagree with, and that is if you go into a store called Roger Pitt's in Launceston, where I was yesterday, and ask them if you can buy a green shirt, a green tie, a green hat, a green belt and green shoes. You see, I thought, Monty, I might get one up on you and establish my environmental credentials here. Anyway, in this store, they said, rather nose in the air, "Sorry, sir, we don't do green." Anyway, I walked out, and then I walked back and I said, "Was that a political or a fashion statement?" Because in Australia we have both a federal and a state government where the Greens are in coalition and actually running the show. Bit the way it is here, but the Greens aren't doing it. Now, oh, excuse me, I forgot one of my props. Anyway, the argument that we're debating is that whether the UK wine trade should promote organic and biodynamic wines. I would add a rider and say whether they should continue to promote it, because certainly there is a very strong consensus in favour of support of such wines. There is no Monty Walden who argues the case for conventional viticulture. If you go to the library downstairs in the basement, you'll find a section on biodynamic and organic viticulture, so labelled on the shelf. You won't find one for conventional viticulture. You will find an old copy of Monty's book, and you won't find a copy of mine. I only hope that's because someone has pinched it. But maybe not, maybe it's never been there.
It's been there.
Has it?
It was there.
Good. Oh, okay. Maybe I just didn't find it. I was a little tired. I just arrived in London at 5:30 this morning. Anyway, the reason why I'm interested in this overall topic is because of the implicit bias against people who use what I might call conventional viticulture. And that's the reason why I'm at all interested in this topic. Frankly, I don't care a fig if people want to be organic or biodynamic. They don't need my permission to do what they want in the in their vineyards, so they can do what they want. I don't care. But what I do care is that if by their words being picked up by wine journalists or whatever, they disadvantage other people who I think are equally as earnest in their concern for the environment. That's what I care about. And what made me think about this was a client of mine in New Zealand who 2 years ago, I've been consulting for him regularly, and he said to me, "I want you to come and advise me if I should go organic or biodynamic." And I said, "Larry, you asked the wrong guy here, mate. You might as well save yourself the cost." He said, "No, I want you to come and we'll just talk about it." So we did. And we talked about it, and what he said to me clearly is that he is being disadvantaged in the marketplace because he's not organic or biodynamic. And I thought, that's tough. Why should he be being disadvantaged? Because, as I'll tell you later, I don't think organic or biodynamic's got much going for them. I think it's basically a lot of PR. And there's a lot of misperceptions out there, and I hope to challenge some of yours later on. But anyway, we talked about it all day, and Larry pointed out to me, within the Martinborough region, all the organic vineyards, and actually he didn't need to point them out. They were all suffering nitrogen deficiency and water deficiency. And I said to him, Larry, what is this? Is organic viticulture an excuse for laziness and lack of attention to vineyards? Who is it who says that nitrogen deficiency is good for wine quality? You'd have to not know much about vineyards to make that argument. And then more recently, when news of this debate came out, I had an email from a guy who's a former student of mine, and who I might add is a respected winemaker and one whose name you would all know. And he wrote me this letter and said, good for you, he said. It's about time someone stood up for conventional viticulture. And he said, we are too frightened to stick our head above the parapet for fear it'll affect our sales. And I said, well, thanks very much, whatever the guy's name is, and it was a man. Can I quote you? He's normally very punctual in his response. After 4 days, he wrote back and said, no, we do not think you should. Now, to my mind, that makes the point very clearly how frightened people are to be seen to not be organic or biodynamic, for fear it'll affect their income. And if I were to tell you the name of this person, as I say, you would all know them. And he is an environmentally conscious farmer. He does canopy management, which helps reduce the powdery mildew infection in his vineyard. And yet that's not a sexy term like organic and biodynamic, so it doesn't mean much to the consumers. So that's the reason why I'm against this motion. I think the UK wine trade, and it probably leads the world in promotion of the wine, be it or not a good thing, I reserve my judgment on that, but they are certainly pro-organic and biodynamic. And there is a downside of that stance. In Australia, there's a journalist called Max Allen, who's very, very strong on organic. I suppose you know Max, do you know? This is some of Max's words. These are some of Max's words. The wines, I forget if they were organic or biodynamic, doesn't matter much, they tasted different. They were wines with an extra vitality and liveliness on the tongue, wines that were incredibly satisfying to drink, wines that made the flavour descriptors tumble out of my brain when I came to writing tasting notes. Is that not emotive stuff? Well, you may think it's justified, I'm not sure. James Halliday, one of our older, more experienced wine journalists in Australia, said, this was more of Max Allen. I think the environmental and spiritual side of the biodynamic movement are important. The spiritual side, I just get lost with that. James Halliday says, the advantage of organic viticulture are beyond doubt. You know, what sort of a statement is that? Maybe beyond doubt to him. Why might the UK wine trade support organic and biodynamic viticulture? Or, as I would say, why might they continue to support it? 5 minutes left?
5 minutes.
That hat suits you very well. They might support it because the wines are better, on one hand. The wines are better for you, on the other hand, or that the production of wine is better for the environment. In my opinion, these are all arguable. To support my contention about how such wines are promoted, at the back of the room you have this brochure. Organic wines. This keeps them free from those man-made toxins that find their way into the food chain and eventually into you. That's a very strong suggestion to me that drinking non-organic wine is bad for your health. And I think that is a dangerous statement. And for those of you who work in the wine trade, where 95% of your wine is non-alternative, is conventional, you might have an opinion on a statement like that. How many of you have read this book?
What is it?
Silent Spring by Rachel Carson.
This is the book that blew the whistle on the abuse of agrochemicals, that told the story of after World War II, when you got all those big munitions factories, production capacity, bombs no more, what are they going to produce? Many of them went into agrochemicals. And in fact, some of the German factories were investigating toxins for use against enemy troops, and they found they were insecticides. And this is the book, a fantastic book, well worth reading, published in 1962. And it's got a foreword by Lord Shackleton and Huxley. And it talks about, at that stage, one of the first signs in the British countryside of problems with agrochemicals was... Thank you. You're anything if consistent, Anthony. About the dangers of widespread use of agrochemicals, and particularly on the bird population. And in fact, this book documents within the US their spraying of elm trees against Dutch elm disease, and how the leaf litter fell and the earthworms ingested it, and the robins came and ate the earthworms, and that was the end of the robins. And it was this book, almost 50 years ago next year, when it was published, that raised the alarm that agrochemicals are indeed very dangerous substances, and they should be used very carefully. And now, in modern viticulture, we have training of operators, we have many government agencies that require exhaustive tests on any chemicals to be used for agriculture, in fact for many things, in industry as well. And the people who sell those have got to pay very expensive fees to show that the chemicals are efficacious, they don't damage the environment, they won't hurt the operators who apply them, and that they're generally safe to use. And I would put to you, there are no such constraints on organic and biodynamic preparations. You don't have any government regulating them. And I'm not suggesting that in fact they're dangerous, because I don't think they are. But all I'm saying is that we live in a society that's governed by the rules of science. I flew here in an airplane this morning that was not built by the logic of biodynamics. I don't know which one you came on, Monty.
Mine wasn't built. Mine was built the same as yours. Actually.
And it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that I might best finish up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for the loan of the green hat. Thank you.